This is Carolina Haints. Carolina Haints presents Folk, a show about our stories. I'm your host, Dan Sellers. Follow the Petey River down toward the state line, where the pines grow thick and the land dips toward the water, and you'll find a quiet grove of trees hiding something strange. A massive rock, broad and flat, stained a deep, rusty red. Legend knows it as Execution Rock. And like many places in North Carolina, the truth behind that name lies somewhere between history and folklore. Before Europeans arrived, this part of the Carolinas was controlled by the Waxhaw, the Cheraw, and especially the Catawba tribes. The Catawba were known for fierce fighting against rivals, but also for unusually peaceful relations with early settlers. Their greatest leader, King Hagler, became a respected figure among colonists. He protected smaller tribes, forged diplomatic connections, and helped stabilize the region through the French and Indian War. According to oral tradition, Execution Rock was once part of an indigenous judgment site, a place where serious disputes were settled and sentences carried out. Some accounts say the Catawbas used the stone for executions, beheading their enemies and letting the blood run across the flat surface of the boulder before it spilled into the soil below. These stories persisted long after the tribes were displaced, and today folks still point to the rock's deep red stains as evidence of something grim, stains that seem to darken whenever a storm rolls in. By the time settlers began pushing into the Petey River Valley in the late 1600s and early 1700s, disease and conflict had already devastated many of the local tribes. The remaining communities often turned to the Catawba for protection, just as the settlers themselves did. Families built their first cabins here, simple structures of pine logs and hearths that glowed each night. Around those fires, stories blended Scotch-Irish superstition with German folk beliefs, African spiritual traditions, and indigenous tales. Stories of witches who could slip through metal keyholes, of warlocks who cursed livestock, and of haunted places that held memories of violence. Execution Rock was one of those places. When the county was formally established, this area was chosen as the site of the first Anson County Courthouse, built near a settlement called Mount Pleasant. The courthouse is gone now, hidden away on private hunting land. But in those early days of frontier justice, disputes were settled harshly and immediately. It's believed that sentences were carried out at the rock. Outlaws were tied to it and shot, or hanged from the trees above. None of those accounts appear in official records. But in frontier towns, not everything made it onto paper. Colonel Thomas Wade was a commander of the Anson County Militia during the American Revolution. Wade fought Loyalist forces throughout the region, led men at battles like Beatty's Bridge and Lindley's Mill. Later in life, he served in the state legislature and was the sheriff of Anson County. And when he died at the age of 48, he was buried just feet away from Execution Rock in a small family plot, close to where he was born and bred. The state legislature renamed Anson County's seat, Newtown, as Wadesboro in his honor. And in 1928, the Daughters of the American Revolution placed a plaque directly onto Execution Rock, marking it as Wade's burial site. That's where the history collides with the legend, a place of indigenous judgment, a place of frontier justice, a Revolutionary War hero's grave, all occupying the same space. But the strangest part, the part that gives Execution Rock its reputation, is what happens when it rains. Legend has it, the stone bleeds. When a hard storm comes through, thin red streaks run down the surface, pulling in the cracks like something freshly spilled. Scientists say it's the iron content leaching out of the rock. The old-timers say it's something else. The memory of every life ended there, whether by tribal warriors, colonial militia, or perhaps spirits older than both. Fact, folklore, or something in between. Execution Rock remains exactly what it has always been, a place where the past refuses to stay buried. This episode was brought to you by Wreak Havoc Productions and Carolina Haints Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving and promoting folklore storytelling throughout the Carolinas. You can find everything we're up to, including our books, podcast, and upcoming events at carolinahaints.com. We'll be back next week with a new episode of Folk. Tune in then to help us keep the tradition of oral storytelling alive.